Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 652. My opponent kicked off with e4, and I played e5, and my opponent goes with the slightly rare move, knight c3, the Vienna game. You see the Vienna game and also the bishop's opening are like the second tier openings after knight f3, the main move, and f4, the king's gambit. But these do lead to some interesting play. They don't give technically, if you play correctly with black, they don't give white so much of an advantage as the other openings, so you don't see them so often, particularly at the top level. But they have some interesting aspects to them, and you got to see one of them in the game. They can be very aggressive, sharp openings, so interesting thing to play around with. Let's see, I did the main move here, knight f6, kind of trying to counteract the influence of this knight with your knight. And then he played bishop to c4. So we've got kind of a hybrid here of the bishop's opening and the Vienna game. The move, we have time since it was a short game to explore the opening a little bit. The other moves here, knight f3, this would transpose into the four knights opening. G3 I haven't really seen. I don't know too much about that one. But I really wanted to mention this move f4 because I got killed in a over the board game once with this move f4. And what you have to remember here is you have to immediately counter-strike in the center. What white is trying to do with the Vienna game, and particularly with this f4 move, knight c3 followed by f4, is trying to get a better version of the king's gambit. And if you just play quietly, that happens. White gets a good version of the king's gambit. So you have to play aggressively against the Vienna game here with d5. But this works out okay. The main line goes, he takes, and then you take because your knight's under attack. And your queen is defending the pawn, and you can bail out with this knight by taking this knight if this guy ever gets into trouble. For example, if it's kicked with d3. But normally the development goes with, say, knight to f3. Well, let's check out what the book says about d3, see if my answer is correct. Yeah, you just bail out here, and should be an okay position. Looks like white has a lot of center influence here. Oh, black pushes on with d4 to try and bust up the center. Okay, so that would be d3. If knight f3, which is the main move here, then just keep developing with bishop e7, try and control this diagonal, and you should be okay. Let's back up, see if there's any other line I wanted to look at here. So that was knight f3, d3. Yeah, instead of taking, he could also play d3 here, which is kind of an interesting way to play as well. And black can counter with the exchange, taking on e4 or pushing to d4. And it looks like either of those will work out. I think I like this one a little better. Actually, the the opening book is optimistic for white there. Here, let's turn on the engine. See if the engine has an opinion about this position. Likes bishop b4. Likes black here. Bishop b4 or e takes f4. And but d takes e4 should be okay as well. Yeah, f takes e5 is a little bit of a wrinkle, huh? And knight to g4 to try and round that pawn up. Knight takes e4 and knight to c6. So it looks like white is slightly better in this line, but black is still okay. So anyway, let's turn the engine off. Go back to the opening book. Let's back up to where we were in the game. So that's yeah, that's the Vienna game with f4. So just remember that move d5, and after he takes, you take the pawn, and if he plays d3, it looks like you can take the e pawn, try and open up the center. Anyway, in the game, he didn't play that way. He played bishop to c4. So let's continue with the game. And I went bishop to c5. You see, bishop c5 is one of the moves here. Maybe not the top choice, but it's still okay. I actually did not get in trouble in the opening. In spite of the outcome of the game, I was okay up to a certain point. So we'll show that. Anyway, he goes d3. I thought White's play was very logical in this game, though. He didn't waste any moves, and he got his pieces organized for this kingside attack, getting his bishop out and pinning my knight. And now I'm sort of in a bit of a quandary what to do with this bishop. If I play d6 right away, which is a move here, I have to live with this pin for a long time. It's difficult for me in other cases. You can unpin by playing the queen here to here, defend the knight from the side and unpin it, but that doesn't work here because of the bishop. So it's a little bit tricky to figure out how to deal with this situation. I just stall for a moment. I kick the bishop, and then I play the move a6. My idea is to try and harass this this bishop a little bit to relieve the diagonal and leave this bishop still uncommitted. So my idea is I'm going to follow up with b5 here. We're just out of the opening book. And so he plays a4 to prevent it. Very, like I said, very logical play from white. And now I just decide to drop back and break the pin this way. And so even though I've wasted a move here, I looked at this with the chess engine, and I'm doing okay. It seems to be fine for black even so. I guess the center is closed. White does have an advantage in development. Let's see, after this move, I still have to develop these two pieces, and he's got his pieces out, but he hasn't castled. So after he castles, I get my piece out. So I'm just like one move behind the development because I haven't developed this bishop over here. And now he plays knight to d2. He's getting the knight out of the way so he can push the f-pawn forward. So like we saw in that earlier, in those other lines, just pushing the f-pawn forward is often an idea with the Vienna game. He's just organizing his pieces to support that. And I played rook b8 with the idea, once again, of pushing forward with b5. I had that idea from before, and I just counted wrong. So he plays bishop back to g3. I was a little surprised he didn't push f4 right away, but maybe he wants to get the bishop behind it, so he can take back with the bishop and get it on this good diagonal like happens in the game. And then b5 is my blunder. It just loses the pawn, and I really just didn't count this correctly. I noticed that he pushed that pawn forward to stop me from playing b5, and so I played a6 and rook here to support that. But he's got two pieces on it, and I just have one piece on it, so it's not going to work. What could I play here? The chess engine is talking about moves like this, a5 or b6. Not moves that would have occurred to me. I'm not sure what the purpose of these moves are. They kind of give up control of the light squares a little bit if I push those pawns forward. I might have thought of a move like c6, still trying to reinforce his b5 idea, but he can play a5. All these are still okay for black, but I'm just not quite sure what the plan is here. The one I guess I like best after looking at this position for a while is knight to c5. And the idea is if he kicks the knight with the b-pawn, the knight can reroute to e6. And if he doesn't kick it, well, you can bring this bishop to e6, supported by the knight, and counter his pressure along this diagonal. So, and black should be fine. But after this move b5, which is what I played in the game, let's back up. After this move b5, which is what I played in the game, I'm just down a pawn. And well, my opponent, being a strong player, he never really lets me back into the game. And now there are different ways to play from here, being down a pawn. The chess engine just wants to develop, say, okay, you're down a pawn, just get your pieces out and keep playing. But I was trying to get my pawn back. But yeah, so bishop b7 is the chess engine's recommended move, just complete development and forget about winning that pawn back. But I had noticed that his b-pawn was undefended here, and I thought, well, maybe there's a way to win that back. So I go on that plan. Knight b6. He plays f4 now. He's all set up for his f4 push. I trade it off. This is okay. And then bishop d7, the idea being to get rid of this obstacle along the b file so I can get to his b-pawn. So he takes, I take, and then he plays knight f3. So he could have pushed that pawn forward, he could have defended it, but he judged, and correctly it seems, that his attack is good enough that he doesn't have to worry about losing that pawn. And in fact, the material is just even, and you can see that white has got a better setup with his open f-file and his pieces ready to jump into the king side. And he gets another tempo move with queen to c1. So that's the, he gave the pawn back, but he gained a lot of activity and organization for his pieces. So that's that's what he got in exchange. And the chess engine, even though the material is even, it still gives that +1 advantage to white here in this position. And it thinks rook b8 is probably a mistake. It wants to try and keep the rook active by moving it to b4 or to b6. And I really just wasn't sure if the rook would be stable there. I really want to go to this square, b5, so that the rook is looking across here and defending this way. But, well, b6 has some points. The rook on b6 maybe can defend this way if I move these pawns and pieces out of the way. It might be useful in the defense. But not seeing that, I just dropped the rook all the way back to b8, and he plays knight d4, so continuing with his attack. And, you know, this knight is hopping into f5, a great square for his knight, and I don't have a good way to prevent it. I can't play g6 here because I'll lose the h-pawn, which would be pretty critical. And the way to play on at this point, I just give you an idea of what kind of trouble I'm in here. Even though the material is still even, the only way to play on, well, the recommended way to play on by the chess engine is play rook e8. And then if he tries knight f5 now, what I can do is I can take and displace his queen, and this buys me a little time to try and organize some defense. So this seems to be okay. But after rook a8, he can take my rook and pull my queen away. And then he can come in with knight f5, hitting my bishop. And if I defend with the rook, which is the best way, then he can grab this pawn. And I can take back, in this case, without getting mated. So he takes with check, and I have the f8 square. So my king has got a square here. But you can see, actually, white is still has a winning attack here. White has, well, can I say it's a winning attack? The chess engine rates this position as an advantage for white. And white is sacked a piece, and so when that happens, usually that means there's a winning attack. I guess I'll put it that way. You can see there's all these ideas to bring his rook in, to bring his queen in. The only piece that's not yet in the game is this knight, which can hop in here to maybe distract my knight at a key moment. So, and my king is all exposed. So you can see there's a lot going on in this position that looks to favor white. But that's my best play. Anyway, I went queen e8, and the problem with that is that it blocks this rook in, so no longer do I have the idea of trying to escape the attack with king to f8. So he played knight f5 here. Already he could have played bishop takes h6. That was already winning. But he went knight f5 here. I went bishop d8, and now he takes. And the chess engine wants me to play a move like g6 and just give up the exchange here and try and play on. But of course he's completely winning. So I took the bishop, but this also loses. He comes in here with queen takes h6. And the move I played, knight h7, allows mate in 1. But other moves lose massive amounts of material. So no matter what happens here, I'm losing. So I guess I chose to get it over with quickly. I actually didn't even see that, but it's hard to find a defensive move in a case like this. Anyway, it was a nice game, especially from white's point of view. Very steady attacking play. But if we go back, it was really this b5 move that set me on the downward path. Until that point, I was still doing okay. I just needed to find the right plan at that point. Okay, I hope you guys liked this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.